Hello everyone, it's Jay again, and this is our third video in our series of video tutorials for Git using SourceTree. In a previous video we learned how to create a branch. In this video we're going to uh, learn how to make a change in Git. This change could be anything. It could be a bug fix that you're working on, or an enhancement, or a feature, but essentially what are the steps and the process to make changes in Git. So let's open up SourceTree. This is the branch that we had created, the incident to update background color. So let's go and take a quick look at what our background color currently looks like. So okay, and if you have SourceTree open and if you're looking at your repository, right, you can click the file status tab, and there's a shortcut to open the repository in Windows Explorer. So this is what my repository currently looks like, and this is my index page, and it's this hideous blue color page, and it's really hard to read anything over here. So I want to come in and make some changes as a part of the bug fix. So let's go back to SourceTree. Actually, no, let's go back to our repository in Windows Explorer. I've already made some changes and saved the files in a different folder. So I'm just going to copy from here. And I'm going to paste them. I'm going to say copy and replace. So as soon as I make changes to my repository, if I go back to SourceTree, within a few seconds it'll detect, hey, something changed in my repository, and then it gives me a summary of what is changed. So 3 files were changed, or 2 files were modified, and there was a new file that was added. So it says that Git is currently not tracking this file. If you want to start tracking it, you have to add it to Git. But it's a good place to see a summary of everything that you have changed so far, but you haven't committed it to the repository. This is the file status tab. You can also go to the log or the history tab, and it'll tell you that, alright, you have some uncommitted changes. Again, it'll give you that same information, the list of files that changed and what changed within those files. So in example 1.css, these are the 3 lines that were modified. Same thing for file 1.txt. There's a bunch of changes, and this is a completely new file. So in Git, when you want to make changes, it's a 2-step process, and then there's an additional 3rd step to push your changes to the remote server so that everyone else can look at those changes. So essentially you run the git add command to add changes to the staging area. Once you're happy with everything that is in the staging area, you would commit, and lastly, to share with everyone else, you would push. So how would you go about doing this in SourceTree? In SourceTree, as soon as you check this box, it is equivalent of running the add command via the command line. So this is already staged. Now we're ready to commit our changes, but before that we want to actually go and see what our web page looks like. So we have a new web page, or the home page, and it's now called example1.html, and this is what it looks like. Much better, much easier to read, right? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go back to the repository, and I'm going to I'm going to delete this old index.html. So we made 3 changes, right? And SourceTree is gonna tell us what those 3 changes are. Alright. It said we are adding a new file that it's not tracking. We have deleted a file that it used to track, and we have modified the contents of the two files that it's currently tracking. Okay, and now we are happy with our changes and we are happy with the way the repository looks. So we're going to say, okay, stage these files to my staging area, and I'm ready to commit these changes to the repository. Now at this time I want to quickly point to the development and deployment process document, and within it specifically I want to go over the guidelines for writing meaningful commit messages. Uh, this is a great practice. It'll make our repositories look and feel uniform. It is very essential that all of us follow these few simple rules, right? So there are 7 rules. First one, separate subject from the body with a blank line. Limit the subject line to 50 characters. Capitalize the subject line. Do not enter the subject line with a period. Do not end the subject line with a period. Use the imperative mood in the subject line. So that is like giving a command. So not modified file to fix bug. It should be modify file to fix bug. Rule number 6 is wrap the body at 72 characters. This has to be approximation. You don't want to type in a 200 character body. Also use the body to explain what and why versus how. And this section has more examples, and it goes into details of what is expected. For instance, you can have bullet points as a part of your explanation. Typically a hyphen or an asterisk can be used for a bullet. So please go over this section and understand it, and please follow it. Alright, going back to the task at hand, which was making changes to the repository. So again, we're modifying files, deleting files, and adding a new file, and we're ready to type our commit message. We're going to say update web page design. And then we can add more details after a blank line. So we can say something like, and we can type in more details after a blank line, and I have bulleted the summary, right? So I said I rename the index.html to example1.html for consistency, change the background color to yellow, change the font color to purple to meet requirements, and that's sufficient. That's a good commit message. Alright, so one more thing I want to point out is you have the option to push changes immediately to the remote server, but I don't like doing that unless if I'm 100% sure that the changes that I make I don't want to review, because as long as the changes are local on your repository, you can edit the commits, you can modify them, you can delete them even. But once you push it to the remote server, that means someone else can start pulling your changes in. You will not be allowed to make changes to those anymore. There are other ways to address fix issues, and we'll go over those strategies in a different tutorial. But I'm ready to commit my changes to the local repository, and there we go. So we created a new commit. It shows me the summary of what the commit was. So update website design. It shows me what are the files that were modified, and if I want more details I can read the more detailed summary. of changes, of the commit message rather, sorry. And the last step is to push changes on the remote server so that everybody else can see them. One more thing I want to point out is over here you see that it says 1 ahead. This essentially means that your local incident 00002 branch is one version ahead of what the remote repository currently looks like. So the remote repository currently looks like this version. Your local repository on this branch looks like this version. So as soon as you hit push, you will see that this origin incident 0002 tag move up here. So I'm saying push. I want you to push changes that I've made to this branch. Okay. Done. So now our local and the remote branch look exactly the same. And this is how you would make changes to your repositories while you're working on your bug fixes or whatever your change may be. Thank you.